Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video we're going to do some more writing feedback. We have an IELTS writing task 2. As always, we begin by checking the question. We want to read the question and reread the question and reread the question to make sure that we understand exactly what we need to do. Also, when we read the question, we want to understand, the IELTS question type that it is. We have different ones like advantages and disadvantages, or causes and solutions, or problems and solutions. Discuss both sides. To what extent do you agree? What do you think? And so on. And then when we understand that question, we start to build our structure. So let's have a look at this beautiful question, which has a spelling mistake. I guess that's, I think the candidate wrote the task and then, typed it up, and obviously hasn't spotted this, but okay. Let's see. Some people, not all, but some people, okay, fine. Some people believe that tourists should, not that they do, but that they should, tourists should accept social and environmental responsibility. I have to change that spelling. It's annoying me. Okay. Some people believe that tourists should accept social and environmental responsibility. I will be very surprised if I find out that this is a real IELTS question. It's just, for me, it's just not obvious what that means. Of course, I can make inferences, I can guess, I can speculate about what it means, but generally IELTS questions, they should be easy to understand. The people who make the IELTS questions want to make sure that the candidate has the best possible chance of understanding. So anyone that's like A2, B1 should understand the question. Now, I'm looking at this and thinking, what does it mean to accept social and environmental responsibility? Now, I'm guessing that, social responsibility means you must stick to the social customs of a country. If you're, for example, if you go to Thailand, I believe it's considered like really, really impolite to touch somebody on the head. And so if you're a tourist in Thailand, according to some people, you really shouldn't touch people on the head. But environmental responsibility, what does that mean? Like not dropping litter or making sure that you recycle the things that you have? It's really unclear. And so, my first bit of advice for this candidate is try to make sure that you're using legitimate, real IELTS questions. There are lots of them. Go to IELTS Liz, go to IELTS Jackie, lots and lots and lots of questions there for you. You don't need to take risks with these bogus questions. So find a reliable source and use those questions. And I could be wrong, right? I have been wrong many times in my life, and I will be wrong many times in my life. But my first impression is that this is not a real question. But okay. We'll deal with it. That's what we have. While others believe that tourists should not accept any responsibility at all, right? So if you're from the UK and you go to Thailand, you don't need to follow the normal social traditions and customs of Thailand, and you don't need to take any responsibility for the environment. I don't know how you... Yeah, I don't know. It's such a strange thing, but okay. Discuss both views and give your opinion. Okay, classic balanced essay, one of the first essays we ever teach students. Usually you start teaching students how to write essays at B1 level, and balanced essay is usually that first one that you teach, just not in IELTS, I mean in, developing writing skills in general. Okay, so quite easy. Those of you who are regular viewers of the channel will know how I like my introductions, background information, reference to the question, and then either pick a side or give a thesis statement, like say what you're going to write. I won't repeat all of this. There is a great video on my channel about how to write introductions. It's super instructive, but okay. Of course, in the introduction here, this is discuss both sides and give your opinion. So this part is really, 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 really important. You need to give that opinion. You need to state what your opinion is in the introduction. It's really important that you do this. Yeah, in the introduction. I don't need to know the reasons why you believe what you believe, but I need to know which side you are on in the introduction. So, pretty obvious then, body paragraph 1 will argue why some people believe that tourists should accept social and environmental responsibility. That's body paragraph 1. Why do some people say, yes, tourists should accept social environmental responsibility? Body paragraph 2, why do others believe that tourists don't need to take any responsibility at all? Why do people believe this? And then in the conclusion, maybe you want to summarize very briefly the opposing sides, but also give your opinion, restate your position, and say why you are more convinced by one side than the other. That's all. Simple, easy, not difficult to do. 4 paragraphs. Let's see what we get from the candidate. Count the paragraphs first of all. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. I like the fact that the introduction and the conclusion, those paragraphs are shorter than the body paragraphs. That shows good balance. Quick check on the word count. Looks a little bit long. We are over 300, but not crazy long, right? 312. Okay. For me, I put my ceiling at 300, 310 perhaps. But yeah, 312. Okay, I'm not going to complain. Okay, so let's see if we get in the introduction what I want. This thing is really important. I really hope the candidate has done this. Where is my color? Let's put it as a nice big pink. Okay, nowadays, good signposting language, that shows good general information. Nowadays, traveling has become good use of perfect tense here. Nowadays, traveling has become more convenient than ever before, good, because of the modern technology, Okay, but are we on topic? Because it's not just background information. For me, background information is like the responsibility of tourists, but for me, the scope is a little bit too wide, but okay, I'm not complaining yet. While some individuals believe that tourists should be responsible for social and environmental damages, so the problem here is you say social and environmental damages. Now, damage usually is used in the singular. In some legal cases, it's used in the plural, like if you owe money to somebody because you did something bad for their reputation, you might see this word damages in a legal sense. In general, in normal English, we use damage as an uncountable noun with no plural form. So that's one problem. The other problem is you say social and environmental damage. Now, I know what environmental damage is, but I don't know what social damage means. What does that mean? Tourists should be responsible for social damage. So if I hear that, some individuals believe that tourists should be responsible for social damage. I don't know what that means. I can't even guess what that means. So that is a problem with your language here that impedes understanding, which we definitely don't want. This is bad. This is a runoff sentence. We just have comma, others argue, full stop here, or comma, while others argue, whereas others argue. So we need some type of linking word here. We don't just want this runoff sentence. Others argue that local authorities are responsible. That's not, is that quite the same? Your focus shouldn't be on local authorities because there's nothing in the question that puts focus on local authorities. It might be local individuals, not tourists. So you've invented this local authorities like kind of out of nowhere. I don't see that mentioned in the question at all. So that is kind of irrelevant. Are responsible to save, responsible for doing something is better. Are responsible for saving social and environmental problems. Again, what does it mean to save a social problem? We need to save this social problem. I don't know what it means to save a problem. Protect protect the country against environmental problems, but I don't know what it means to save social and environmental problems. So that's problematic. Caused by tourists. Cool, I like this caused by tourists, like little reduced relative clause there, like which are caused by. So this caused by tourists, good grammar. In this essay, I will discuss the both views. We don't need the here. I will discuss both views, and it's strange. I will discuss the both views, and okay, I will discuss both views and give reasons why I support the former view. Okay, so the former view, okay, fine as a bit of cohesion. That's referring to the fact that tourists should be responsible. So that's the candidate's position. I can see that. That's a clear position the candidate has taken. The candidate here is on the side of the people who think the tourists should be responsible. The problem is a lot of wording there is odd, confusing, and irrelevant, which is a problem. Okay, body paragraph 1, we should get reasons why tourists should accept social and environmental responsibility. The main reason why people argue that tourists are responsible, it's not that they are responsible, it's that they should be responsible. Big difference there. Should be responsible to social, for social, and environmental damages. Again, we get the same repetition of language, but repetition of faulty language. Anyway, is that traveling releases a huge amount, not just huge amount, but a huge amount. So candidate does have some problems with articles of pollution, comma, including CO2, plastic waste. Okay, so now we get too many embedded clauses here, and that makes the language overly complex. It makes it difficult to read because we get the main reason, right? And then we get embedded clause, why people argue that embedded clause, tourists are responsible for social and environmental damages. So we get a couple of embedded clauses in this subject. Main verb is that embedded clause, traveling releases a huge amount of pollution. Extra information, including CO2, plastic wastages, which embedded clause definitely. So yeah, it's too complex. This sentence is insane. It's insanely complex. You have to find a way to simplify your writing to explain what you mean, because by this point, I'm lost. But anyway, let's try to make sense. Is that traveling releases a huge amount of pollution, including CO2, plastic waste, which definitely feels a little bit maximalist as a modal adverb here. Doesn't feel very academic. Definitely wastages cause, but it should be waste causes. Significant harm. Harm is an adjective. Harm is a noun. We use adjectives to describe nouns. This is an adverb. Adverbs do many things, but they don't describe nouns. Cause significant harm to the environment. Okay, at least we get cause harm to the environment. That's something. But again, this sentence is just painfully complex, difficult to understand. You must find a way to simplify. Secondly, good bit of cohesion there. We have the main reason as like the first part, and then secondly, good. Secondly, some foreigners do not respect local cultural heritages, and it should be heritage as a singular uncountable noun. Local cultural heritage, and they spread their own cultural roots to people. I don't know what that means. For foreigners, the candidate is saying that foreigners spread their own cultural roots to local people. An example would really help me to understand this, because I don't understand this point. When you say some foreigners spread their own cultural roots to local people, I don't know what it means to spread a cultural root. I just don't know what that means. Consequently, good signposting language, and we get good punctuation with the comma. The native residents' influence to attach with other cultures. No idea what that means. The native residents' influence to attach with other cultures. No idea what that means. Which leads to. Leads to? to be mixed with local cultures. Yeah, I don't know what is being mixed with local cultures. I, yeah, don't know. That is why some indigenous cultures lost their identity, maybe have lost their identity or are losing their identity, but not past simple. Lastly, good signposting. For me, we don't need 3 points in a paragraph. If you have 3 points in one body paragraph, you're probably not developing. And, instead of having that lastly, spend a bit of time maybe using an example to back up this point, because I don't think that point is developed. Lastly, travelers overconsume local resources such as water, fish, not fishes, water, fish, and vegetable, misspelling with vegetable, which causes the inflations, which causes inflation, not the, which causes inflation, and the prices of those products increase, causes the prices of those products to increase than usual, more than usual, perhaps. Very simplistic idea, right? And I don't think it's true. Travelers, I don't think tourists drink so much water, eat so much fish, and eat so much vegetables that it causes inflation in a country. I don't know. Maybe it does. I don't know. But for me, this is really underdeveloped. And the real test, and we don't have a full stop here. The real test of task response is, can I, after reading that paragraph, can I now look away and do the hypothetical friend test, right? Obviously, I don't have real friends in real life, so I have to imagine that my friend Martin has just walked through the door and he says, Glyn, tell me what the candidate has written about why tourists should accept social and environmental responsibility. I've read it, I've checked it. Now, can I paraphrase back to my friend Martin? The main points there? Okay, reason number one why they should take social and environmental responsibility is that traveling causes CO2 and plastic waste, I think. Also, they eat a lot of fish and drink water and eat a lot of vegetables, and that causes inflation. And also, they spread their cultural roots to the local population. I think my friend would say, what? And I'm saying, what? Also, right? So for me, task response just isn't, yeah, we're not close to getting, unfortunately, a good score, shall we say. All right, body paragraph 2. Why is it argued by some that tourists shouldn't have to take any responsibility? Let's see. On the other hand, good signposting language. On the other hand, those who believe, I like this use of those, that's good. Those who believe local governments have the response, but again, it's not, the question doesn't mention local governments. It only says others believe that tourists should not accept any responsibility at all. There isn't any mention here that therefore it must be local authorities that take responsibility. So you've invented this. Those who believe local governments have the responsibility, misspelling, to save social and environmental issues. Again, I don't know what that collocation means, to save an issue. Hey, we need to save this issue. Solve this issue, perhaps, but not save. Issues occurred. So how can something occur by somebody? I don't think something can occur by somebody. This occurred by tourists. So yeah, odd. Argue that, let's get, where is the main idea? Here it is. So a bit of padding here. I just want to start here. Okay, governments generate a huge amount of revenue from the tourism sector. Candidate does struggle with articles from the tourism sector, and they, I guess that means the government, right? And they should invest money to improve the infrastructure of tourist places. This doesn't, for me, this isn't an argument why tourists shouldn't face any responsibility. So for me, we are not on topic according to the question. For example, at least we're going to have an attempt at an example, which will hopefully help me to understand. Authorities should set up enough dustbins. Do we set up dustbins? I'm not sure if set up is exactly the right word, but it's okay. I understand the general meaning, but it's not precise, but I understand. Set up enough dustbins for dust so that travelers will not throw, misspelling, their plastic, misspelling, bottles anywhere. Anywhere or everywhere? I guess everywhere, probably slightly better. Moreover, okay, good signposting language. I'm not a fan of moreover, but it's fine. Moreover, more tourist guides should be employed and they can direct tourists, plural, comma should be, which will definitely help to preserve local cultures. You're asserting that, but I don't think you've developed or explained that. How will having more tourist guides help to preserve local cultures? I hope you explained here. If the employed guides illustrate the value of local cultures, comma, should be, including rules and regulations, comma, tourists will not will not get involved in, will not be involved in, but not involve, in any antisocial activity. So argument seemed a little bit maximalist, a little bit weak, like to suggest that, yeah, if we have guides who take the tourists around, suddenly no tourist will ever become involved in antisocial activities. So it doesn't feel very academic as an argument. At least the candidate has tried to back up their argument with an example. But for me, and the problem isn't just with the candidate's writing, the problem for me is the question, right? The question is just very tricky. I can't make absolute sense of this question. I don't know exactly what it means to accept social and environmental responsibility. Um, mm, I want to Google this question. Just bear with me for a moment. I'm going to Google this question because usually, if you Google parts of the question, you can usually find out where it's from. So I'm going to do this off screen so you won't see it, but I will. Mwahahaha. Let's see. So it's on, these places. It's on some. Oh, that. So there are some websites like Writing 9 where I've seen a lot of bogus questions on Writing 9. Engovnate, I've seen a lot of bogus questions on Engovate. So those websites, I don't know if you're familiar with these sites. They look kind of a little bit. Can I show you? It's not very clear, but you can kind of see. I don't know if you've seen these websites before. Some of the questions on there are absolutely fine, I'm sure, but for me, the question is strange. Anyway, let's not go too off topic, Lynn. Let's get back to Nasham Baranam. Let's get back to business. So, okay. So difficult question for the candidate, and so he's really struggling to make good arguments because the question is kind of weird. Anyway, we can only deal with what the candidates. I can only deal with what the candidates give me. To conclude, find tourism responsibilities. I don't know, tourism responsibilities. It's about social responsibility or the responsibility of tourists, but tourism responsibilities seem strange. Not only rely on the local authorities. I don't know what that means, that tourism responsibilities rely on the local authorities. I don't know what that means. But also every tourist, singular after every tourist should be more conscious about the environment. If individuals become aware of bad consequences, again, bad, and again, it should be the bad consequences, but maybe bad is not very academic. The negative consequences sounds a bit better. The negative consequences of environmental and social damage, probably better, uncountable. The tourism sector, not sectors, will become healthier, not more healthier. Okay. So, marks. Task response. I'm going to go with 5. There is an attempt. There is an the candidate does clearly put forward their position here. The candidate does restate their position kind of here. It's not overly clear. The candidate does try to make points in support of both points of view. However, the points are difficult to follow. The development is a little bit weak. And I can't, as a target reader, as the reader here, I can't say I'm fully informed, but I more or less have an idea of the different arguments surrounding this. So for me, task response of 5. Coherence and cohesion. This is better, the coherence and cohesion. I definitely like, we get nowadays main reason, secondly, consequently, on the other hand, we get those, which is a good bit of cohesion to conclude. The paragraph structure is appropriate. There are a lot of mistakes with article the, which is also a cohesive device, and so when you make mistakes with the, that can affect your cohesion. So some decent stuff. Get that is why fine. So yeah, coherence and cohesion, it's all right. I don't like this, jagged profile. So, if anyone gets like a 5, I don't like giving an 8 for anything else. And I don't think there is enough in there for that cohesion of 8. But I think there is enough coherence and cohesion in there for a 7. Coherence is a bit of a dodgy one because it could overlap with task response and also with grammar. Yeah, for me, the cohesion is very good, and the work is, I will say that the work is put forward in more or less a logical way. Yeah, so while there are some problems for the target reader to understand, I don't think that's caused by the way that the work is logically ordered or the links between the ideas. Grammatical range and accuracy, it's tricky between the 5 and the 6. Has become cool. We wouldn't expect that to be controlled from a B1, so that's kind of B2ish. I don't like this. That's kind of a B1 mistake with the runoff. Lots of problems with punctuation, including missing full stops, missing a lot of commas, lot of mistakes with articles. Do those mistakes get in the way of my understanding? Not really. Um, mm, let's have a look. Why people argue, embedded. We do have some good. Maybe Yeah, maybe this is going to pull down coherence and cohesion. Sorry, we do have some sentences that just go on and on and on with too much embedding, and that does put a serious strain on the reader. And so for that reason, I will drop that coherence and cohesion to a score of 6. I forgot about that like problematic complex embedding that is confusing. That's definitely a problem with coherence and cohesion. Grammatical range and accuracy, I'm going to be generous and say I think there is enough there for a 6. There are lots of mistakes. I understand that. Generally, the mistakes don't cause a breakdown in meaning. There are some, really basic things like cause significantly harm, like wrong part of speech. That's kind of like almost a systematic error. There are different interpretations of the word systematic error. I mean, a systematic error as in like a foundational thing, which is a part of English, which is adjectives describe nouns. Okay. Accountability. There are problems with accountability and uncountability. But I think, yeah, I still think enough for a 6. Lexical range, lexical resource. This one's going to be a tricky one. So, for one thing that's very noticeable, spelling mistakes. Again, single and plural, which could be a grammar thing, could be a vocab thing. Attach with other cultures, just weird wording, lead be mixed, vegetable misspelling, responsibility misspelling, throw misspelling, plastic misspelling. So for me, those spelling mistakes stand out. I do think there is some good vocab in there too, like illustrate the value of local cultures, rules and regulations. That's a good chunk of language. Should be more conscious about the environment and society. So there's definitely a lot of like C1-ish language in there, mixed with some very odd B1-ish word choices. And so for me, I'll put that between C1 and B1, which is B2, which is 6. Cool. So we have our marks. So overall, this gets a score of 5.5. People always argue with me. I say 5, 6, 6, 6 is 5.5 because it is. But, every month or so somebody writes on the channel like, no, 5666 is 5.75 and that rounds up to 6. If you want to believe that, fine. It doesn't. 5666 is 5.5. But okay, this puts you at the lower end of upper intermediate, the minimum, like right on that border between B1 and B2, the lowest form of B2. And I think that is a fair representation. What I will say to the candidate is your vocab is generally good. Articles are problematic, I know. Spelling mistakes, if you can, fix the spelling mistakes because they really stand out and they're quite obvious. But there are two things that are absolutely critical, or three things that are absolutely critical. Firstly, pick a question that is reliable. If you don't know if a question is reliable or not, ask me, write to me. Glyn, can you give me 20 IELTS essay questions? I'll give you 20 IELTS essay questions that are reliable. No problem at all. So pick questions that are reliable. If you can't find reliable questions, ask me. I'll get them to you. Go to IELTS Liz, go to IELTS Jackie. Also, they have good reliable questions there. Secondly, you have to write in a more simplistic way. I understand that you're trying to get a high mark, but you're writing almost like at a level above what you can write, and it just creates so much confusion in the reader. Keep your ideas simple. Make sure your ideas are on topic and make sure you develop them. You don't need 3 arguments in one body paragraph. 2 main points are fine. It's more than enough. Yeah, task response is the place where I find most students fall down on. So learning a little bit about, what does it mean to like write a topic sentence, develop a topic sentence. There's something called LEAT, which is like a nice structure that American high schools teach when they're doing like debating lessons. I might make a video on that. But anyway, here I'm just judging a candidate's writing. To me, it's clear that you don't really know how to put forward, support, explain, and develop a point of view. You have to keep your language simpler because it's just difficult to read. Readability, in whether it's in IELTS or in anything else, readability in a writing text is the most important thing. And unfortunately, in many parts of your writing, it's just not readable. Yeah, but still, good vocab, 5.5, decent grammar, 5.5 overall, lower end of B2, a fair attempt. Anyway, let me know what you think. Have I been too kind? Have I been too cruel? Is there anything you agree or disagree with in my marking? I do enjoy your comments. I might not respond to every single one, but I do read all of the comments. I don't reply to the ones that are a little bit rude, but that's okay. If you would like me to check your IELTS writing, I sound like a YouTuber. If you would like me to check your IELTS writing, then you can request this on my Telegram channel, Expert Examiner. A link to that channel is given below. I also do free speaking tests with lots of detailed feedback. I think that I give more detailed feedback than anybody else in the world, at least for free. My good friend of the channel, Brick, How to IELTS, he also does these free tests. Check out Brick. He will be back on this channel soon. He does some free speaking tests too, so check him out. I'll put a link to his channel below, by the way. He's a really good guy. He deserves some views. He has more subscribers than me, but he certainly, puts a lot of work in. I'm talking too much. Have a wonderful evening. I might upload a video tomorrow, but probably I'll be back on Sunday or Monday. Have a great evening. See you all soon, and bye bye.